Hello again. Next game from the Sinkfield Cup in St. Louis. Now it's round 6 and Magnus is playing Levon Aronian, who is now also living in the USA. I think he's representing USA in the Chess Olympiad that was just played, for example. So let's see what's happening. Aronian is always playing e5 and he's a big specialist of the Marshall. So here, of course, Levon wants this line and then the Marshall. I don't think I've seen Magnus ever play Marshall because it's just so theoretical and complicated, and Aronian has played this for like 30 years, so he knows every detail here. So it's just not a good choice to play that against Aronian. Instead, Magnus, there are many different kinds of variations to avoid the Marshall. They're called like the anti-Marshalls, maybe a4, d3, h3, many lines that's possible here. So, but Magnus today shows a4 and Aronian does b4. I don't really understand when black does rook b8 and when he should do b4, but quite often they do b4, I feel, as a response to a4. But in the archangel variation they do rook b8, so I'm not so sure if there is any good guidelines for that. At least I haven't heard any. So Magnus now decides to play d4. We saw him play this kind of line against I think it was against Svidlov in the candidates. Then he did something like d3, knight here and a5, and it became a complicated game. But this time he's doing d4 instead, and the best move here seems to be to do d6. That what Aronian is doing. Black always have to be careful here. For example, this one and this one, this kind of a position is probably often bad for black. And if you do like this, you have to worry about this sack here that's the computer suggests, which is basically white gets, not only does he get rook and 2 pawns for, no, he gets rook and pawn for bishop and knight, but he also gets an attack here. For example, here he's already winning here because of this check on a8. So black has to be very careful here always when the d4 comes, and the safest move is always used to protect here, because trading a lot of stuff, it doesn't used to be anything special for white. Magnus tries it anyway, but at least the computer thinks it's not something really to be worried about here. So Magnus is going for this endgame here, and it's a little bit the same plan as he did against Svidlo. He's trying to put the knight here and pawn here, and maybe try to get some kind of a better structure on the queen side, but the computer is not very convinced about that. Here, interestingly, Aronian takes on double pawn. It looks completely wrong to get isolated double pawns, but the computer likes it. He thinks that's fine to trade it here. Okay, so we see that the computer prefer knight b3 a bit, but also no, it's actually same as knight b4, c4, both are fine. Okay, we see now one of the advantages for black to have this double pawn is that he can like put a piece here, and when it can't be driven away by b3 because this pawn is here, and when it's being taken, then he will straighten out the pawn chain. So maybe here Aronian didn't need to take. He could have done something slower also, like king f7 or something. But he decides to take, and if he does that, he needs to have some kind of a plan. And it seems like the plan is knight e6 and d6. So the computer likes black's play. He thinks black is better. Aronian has a lot of experience playing black in the Spanish. So the computer doesn't like to take that pawn. He can win a pawn, but I guess he is losing a6 in return and activates white's rook. So let's see what happens. Okay, so Magnus didn't even trade. He did knight e3, which the computer likes. Yeah, he needs to defend c2. But yeah, the problem for black here is that when this knight moves, then a6 is basically falling here. And here he does an interesting thing. He sacrifices an exchange, but white doesn't accept it. Let's see why. So if he would take here, okay, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Like white is an exchange up, but black is winning because of, I guess, because of these pawns. I don't know. I'm impressed by Aronian that he could, and also by Magnus, that they could realize that this was winning for black. It looks. Of course, it's easier for Magnus than for Aronian, because if Aronian plays this, he thinks this is good for him, of course. So Magnus could just like trust him and not capture. But yeah, very impressive stuff that this rook d4 here. So Magnus does something else. And now I don't understand why he can't take here. Ah, I see. Now there is tactical problems because of this. And then rook is hanging, but there is like still lot of tactics here. That's pretty crazy line here. Crazy line. Black is a whole rook down, but some pawns and some like c2 and maybe knight e2 and lots of. So despite black being a whole rook down, it's only 1+1 for white. That's interesting. Let's see the other lines here. So here apparently black can play like that. This one is also fine for black apparently. This an exchange down, but yeah, white's rook are quite passive here. And if it takes here. Yeah, nice stuff here. Yeah, nice. Actually quite interesting complications. I never saw this kind of tactical battle here, 2 knights and 2 rooks just battling it out like that. It's quite an non-standard position actually. So let's see what happens. Yeah. So he did knight rook d2 instead here. Oh. And then okay. So the computer thinks this is equal. But yeah, I kind of like. I think Aronian played actually quite an interesting game here and put quite a lot of pressure on Magnus. So let's see what happened. So Magnus tries to trade a rook here. Okay, sorry, I went way too fast there. Sorry, I went way too fast. I don't have much to comment here because they're just moving around. But apparently here it was very important for Aronian to play correctly. And he had to do rook c5 for some reason. What he did was not good. Yeah, he has a very active rook here. To move it back and allow white to close off the line doesn't seem right. So let's see if he played here. Knight fd3 and back. And it's basically quite similar to what we already see that they go around here. So let's see why this is so bad for black. I don't really see why this is so bad for black, but it, of course, to getting rid of this active rook and put the quick king here, so it's of course like an improvement for white. Okay. Yeah, it's Aronian. First he went here with the king and now he's going back, so he's playing without a plan, really. And now Magnus has some tactics here. Okay, so let's see why this is working now. What should he have done? So black had to go here, which I guess is because of this one. Then he can take and take. And this he can just win a pawn basically. So, but now when he takes, this rook has to move back, and then it's white who wins a pawn instead. And that was apparently a huge difference from like -3 to +2. Okay, so if he would have gone here. Okay, so it's just a doubled pawn up for white, but apparently white is winning here. And I guess it's because of the weakness of black's pawns that he can go here and win this one, and if black tries to defend with the king here, he can check here. So this is just winning for white also. So yeah, that's interesting. Like one uncareful move when Aronian didn't play rook d4 there, lost such an even game. And now yeah, you can see the computer white is completely winning here. Aronian tries to sack a piece, but it doesn't seem to work. Okay, so white is winning. Let's see what happens after that. Then here, and he's getting forked here. And game over. A very nice game. Nice win by Magnus. Also, I think Aronian played very, very strongly here, and he did lots of non-standard moves like this bishop e6 that the computer really liked, taking this isolated double pawns, and then he went and won the a5 pawn, which looked a little bit strange to put his knights like that. Dvoretsky doesn't like when you put your knight so they defend each other. But then Magnus defended well, and it was even here. And the big mistake was here when he voluntarily retreated from this very active position. And then the final mistake was here. Magnus played around his knight with the idea to go here, and it had to be prevented with rook d4. Maybe not. Where was it? Yeah, it had to be prevented somehow, because in this position it was just winning to have it like this. Okay, nice game. Next, this is the last game before the World Championship match in Chennai. Magnus against Vichy, and this is the standing of the Sinkfield Cup here. Magnus won it, so he got a good last tournament before the World Championship. So next video I will talk a bit about the World Championship match and start to look at those games. See you then.